All right, we're going to get started. Welcome to Hidden Technology in the Home, a CEDIA professional development course. Excited to have you here today as part of this. It's about 45 minutes. And if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or speak up. We're happy to take live questions and have an interactive session today. My name is Jen Mallett. I'm the founder of Level Up Automation. I've been in the industry for 25 years, designing technology, managing teams that install it, and of course, supporting it. And as part of this program, I'm part of the Smart Home CE Provider Program, which means that if you're an interior designer, architect, or builder looking for CEUs, you will receive credit within your respective organization for your attendance today. So welcome. Just a little bit about our team before we head into the actual content. We operate in 10 US markets, most of them on the East Coast, and we have 5 automation showrooms that provide essentially an experience for people to be able to touch and feel and look and see and interact with technology in very sophisticated ways that are very simple to control. And we utilize those spaces for that. Our vision as a company is to be the best and most knowledgeable technology company in the world. And our mission really is to be trusted advisors to consumers and business partners. And this particular course is a real part of our mission. This is all about helping us bridge the gap and educate on the technology capabilities within our trade so that we can help designers and other design build professionals incorporate it in part of their work and be able to service their clients. So CEDIA, just real quickly, is a nonprofit organization. It's the Customer Electronics Design and Installation Association. We are a global association with about 4,000 members. And CEDIA has worked with the IDCEC to approve a set of courses that are really about technology and design, and essentially how those two things can merge. So we have a look at about 5 courses. This is one of 5. And essentially, this partnership really is about bridging this gap for everybody. Our learning objectives today, we're really going to understand the concept of what is hidden technology and what are the benefits in terms of how it looks, how it protects your house, and convenience. We're going to identify technology that really can be hidden, such as television, speakers, cameras, and lighting systems. We're going to evaluate different techniques used to hide technology. And we're going to analyze the advantages and disadvantages of what that means when you're designing a home and how it can impact the overall functionality of the space, which is, of course, a paramount concern. And then lastly, we're going to kind of share how you can apply the knowledge from this course to your own projects and consider leveraging hidden technology or integrators, which is the type of company I have, to support you as you're working your way into hiding technology within your projects. So jam-packed. So systems and technologies, just a little bit about this. There's been a big evolution really in the last 3 to 5 years around what is possible. And essentially, when you're looking at systems within the home, you've got an electrical system, a plumbing system, you've got, if it's a new construction, you've got framing and carpentry trades. On the system and technology side, technology integrators, companies like us, really help design and take those systems, as well as other systems like audio, video, things like that will power things on remotely. And we take all of that, working with the other trades, and work to really create a centralized place so that the home can be modern and controlled very simply. There's really a 3-pronged approach to hiding technology. And it's, I think, really easy to remember because it's 3 C's. The first C is camouflage. So we'll talk a little bit, dive a little deeper into what that means here. The second C is concealment, and the last C is consolidation. So if you take anything away from this presentation, those 3 C's and knowing what's possible, what I think will really help you with your projects as you're looking at spaces like this and maximizing how it can look. So camouflage is really the act of hiding something. It's a little different from concealing. They're very kind of close in terms of what their meaning is, but camouflaging and concealing have some different key attributes to it. So camouflaging, essentially technology, is hiding it away, but it still might be visible. Whereas concealment is completely concealing the product from view. So a really great example here for this photo is that you can see on the side where there is a window, the drapery there is hanging down from the ceiling. What's inside that ceiling is an automated drapery track, right? So if you stand underneath that, you'll probably see the drapery track there. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see it. So we've camouflaged within the context of this example, where we've worked with the builder and the carpenter and said, we are going to recess this track in the ceiling to provide these automated drapes and this great experience for these clients without them having to actually see the drapery track, which I think you'd probably agree most people would not want to find. Other good examples of camouflage when we're looking at things like audio systems, for example, oftentimes if you have a client that has, in this situation, maybe they are going to have an audio system, maybe they want it to also have a subwoofer. And one of the things you can do with subwoofers, which really provide the base in the audio component design, is that you can hide it away. So in this case, the subwoofer is hidden behind this couch. It is not visible to people generally. I guess you could trip upon it, but it's camouflaged. And that doesn't impact the performance of the product at all, right? So camouflaging provides some discreteness to the technology you're trying to hide, but it does not impact the performance. In this case, bass sound waves are very large. So if you were sitting next to somebody at a red light, for example, and you heard just thumping coming in from the car next to you, you don't hear you hear the sub, essentially the bass coming from that audio, not the high points. And that's because that sound wave is really big and can move through things like car doors. So in this case, we're fine with camouflaging the subwoofer behind this couch here so that people don't need to see it out on the floor. Keeps a nice clean look, but we're still getting that great bass performance. So those are two good examples of camouflaging. There are a variety of other things that you can do as well as part of camouflaging. We can talk about that a little bit more, but those are two good examples. Next, we're going to talk about concealment. So this is really all about completely hiding things away. So oftentimes, some of the things that people want to hide away are things like speakers or even subwoofers, as we talked about earlier, but also televisions. You know, the giant television on the wall, for some people, really is not the desired focal point. So you have two really good examples here where on one side, if you look at the television that's coming down from the ceiling, that is a special motorized mount. So when that television is up in the ceiling, it is completely concealed and flat. And when that client wants to be able to essentially use it, it's the press of the button, or maybe it's a voice command that allows that television to just come right down to the desired level so that they can view it. And then when they're done, it goes right back to where it is. So that's a great example of concealment. On the other side, you see what is a TV lift cabinet. So in this case, there is, at the foot of the bed, special cabinetry that is designed along with the appropriate size for the opening for the television. And instead of coming out of the ceiling, it is coming out of the actual foot of the bed. And then again, going back when it's done. So that's one example of how you can conceal TVs. Other examples include things like if you have a client that really loves artwork, there's capabilities where we can take, for example, any type of print of artwork that client wants and create a motorized artwork screen that completely conceals the television, but then is motorized so that when the client would like to view it, the artwork actually rolls up, nice, sophisticated way, and hides, revealing the television. There are also within concealment activities, if we look at things like audio products, which typically on luxury residential applications would be grills in the ceiling, right? That are essentially architectural audio systems that provide distributed audio and music throughout the home. You now, with the existing technology, can actually conceal those speakers that have grills in the ceiling completely behind the drywall. And the first question we usually get asked when we talk about this is people, well, how does that sound good, right? Is that going to impact the performance? And the answer is no, they sound phenomenal. And the amount of engineering that has happened in that space in the last 5 years is fantastic. So we can go ahead and, for example, in one of these ceilings, instead of having those grills that you see, in one case it's a square grill, in another case it's a round grill on the other side, we can completely put that right behind that ceiling, and so that is completely finished and is not seen. In addition to that, that subwoofer, that bass example we talked about in the previous slide, those also can be concealed just like the speaker. We can put subwoofers in ceilings, we can put them in floors, and we can put them in walls, completely behind the drywall, out of the way. People wouldn't even know it was there unless they were told. So that is really pretty magical concealment that is available now, and the product performance is really very good. The third is consolidation. And what this is really about is, if you are familiar with just stacks and stacks and stacks of equipment, lots of remotes, lots of lighting controls on the wall. That's a lot of technology that really represent an opportunity for us to consolidate. So for example, with this photo here, you've got a couple different lighting loads happening. You've got some recessed downlights. You have some pendants that are happening above essentially the coffee bar area over on the side, and then you have this living space area. So those are different areas where you can control the lighting. There's probably some linear lighting in here and accent lighting as well. So within consolidating technology and lighting controls, a typical way to essentially have that without having any design thinking would be to have a switch for each load, right? When you're consolidating around that design, your goal really is to have maybe one keypad that has 4 buttons on it that controls those 4 loads, as opposed to having 5 or 6 switches, a bank of switches on the wall. So that is a really great technique. It requires planning at the architectural phase and as part of the lighting load planning to make sure that the electrical work is wired correctly, because it's a little bit different than how electrical trades have traditionally wired for lighting control systems. And there's a little bit of coaching that kind of helps with that, so that you can make sure that you have the infrastructure that's right, that keeps that lighting control consolidated on the wall. You can also, essentially take a look at consolidating things like remotes. So it used to be that you might have a remote for every single device that you wanted to control, for example, on your television. So you might have an Apple TV remote, you might have the television power on and off remote, you might have a cable remote, you might have a streaming stick remote, you might still have maybe a Blu-ray player and other devices that are there. We can now really take all of those control mechanisms. Instead of having 5 remotes, we have 1. And we do that really through integrating all the technology that utilizes those control commands and essentially putting them into a control system that is able to recognize it and act as 1 remote. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful thing. And nobody misses having 5 or 6 remotes on their coffee table here. So those are a couple of examples of how you can really consolidate, technology through using some design thinking. So camouflage, concealment, and consolidation, those are your 3 C's as you're considering. We've talked a bit about indoor technology, but this absolutely applies for outdoor technology as well. So Very similar in that if you're looking at, for example, the lighting loads that are outside in this beautiful outdoor kitchen and bar area, you have accent lighting, you have bar lighting, you have overhead lighting as well. You have landscape lighting, right? So again, you could have 5 or 6 switches that are on a wall that somebody needs to get up and control. Instead of that, what we can do is really think about the space more holistically and say, okay, how are clients looking to enjoy this space? Are they looking to listen to music? Do they like to entertain? What sort of vibe do they like to have at the end of the day when they're relaxing and enjoying this space? And then what we do is we essentially take all of the different technologies. So it would be audio speakers, lighting, maybe there's an outdoor television or an outdoor screen here. And then you incorporate things like you want to control like maybe fire pits or water features or something else. Anything that's got power, essentially, we can control. And as we think about outdoor technology, the camouflage, concealment, and consolidation techniques absolutely translate over. So we can have one point of control for all of those items. We can create scenes that allow us to be able to get to that place where the client is getting the vibe that they want at the end of the day without opening up their phone, pulling up 6 different apps, or getting up, turning on the audio, flipping some switches, right? It can just be the call of a command or the push of one button, and 5 or 6 things all at once come together to create that great experience, nice and convenient for them. So indoor and outdoor spaces absolutely can utilize camouflage, concealment, and consolidation. We'll talk a little bit about remote location. So it used to be probably 20 years ago, even maybe 15 years ago, we would do a lot of local technology. So for example, the best example I can think of is if you have a main room with a television, you might have a local DVD player there. You might have a local receiver there, maybe some speakers, and you might have a gaming system as well. So there might be a stack of equipment that is local to that room. Cable boxes is a great example. You'd have a cable box in every single room, right? So that is where, essentially you've got all these remote devices. In this case, what we're able to do is take a lot of those devices and just take them out of the room, remove them from the room so that the cabinetry can be used for things that people want there outside of electronics. And what we do is we design around remotely locating these devices to a data rack, a centralized place in the home where everything is nice and neat and organized. Same thing with the wires. I don't think anybody really loves to have a rat's nest of wires behind their television, right? So when we look at remote locating things like audio, which is some of what you see in this picture, we're essentially looking at how do we minimize the wire runs, how do we make things neat, and the remote location of designing around these zones makes it possible. So for example, in this case, you've got 2 in-ceiling architectural speakers. These aren't the concealed ones. These are the ones that are kind of typical architectural speakers that are in the ceiling. And you can see that there's some cutout. This is a retrofit project in a few different areas where there's some lines run. This particular room, instead of having it run locally, runs all the way down to a data rack, which has the amplifiers that power these speakers. It also has the router and the switch and other pieces of the puzzle that help the data transmission and the connectivity of the home as well. So a good example here too is people used to listen to different media types. They might listen to CDs. Record players have come back. We've got a really cool way to digitize those and play that throughout your house, but that used to be a really primary media type. But most people nowadays are streaming. They're streaming through Spotify or Pandora or Apple Music or YouTube Music, one of those means. And because of that, there's a lot of importance set on the actual network that the customer has in the house and how to ensure that that entertainment is delivered in an uninterrupted way. So long story short, one of the benefits of remote location is that we can make sure that the connectivity that is enabling that streaming service is all localized and is not going to have any challenges with the construction in terms of making sure that that signal gets to where it needs to be so that music or video stream is uninterrupted. Elimination. So, some of what we talked about earlier around eliminating wall controls and consolidating them absolutely speaks to like eliminating technology. Essentially some of what you can do here, if you look at this example where you have the screen, that screen is actually coming right down motorized from the ceiling area. So in this case, instead of putting a television on a wall, you can tell that this space is not very large. It certainly is a luxury space, but there's not a lot of wall space to work with. You've got a piece of artwork that's lit on one side. You've got the bed facing out to a window, and you've got a challenge here around, okay, how am I going to also create essentially a media room in this bedroom for this client? And there's a couple things going on here outside of what you're seeing for the screen. One is that you have, obviously the screen coming down from the ceiling. You have a projector that is tied into the system that is creating the picture. But you also have two different types of motorized shades. You have the down roller shade, which is coming from the ceiling as well, that pocket that was built in the ceiling. And similar to the other picture we showed, you have the motorized drapery track. So in this particular scenario, you can envision sitting down, pressing a button, saying a command, the outside shade goes down, the drapes close, and then the movie screen comes down and the projector turns on. And as a professional here, I would also say the light should dim, because that's how the pictures are always going to be to look best with a projector when there's darker rooms. So all of that happens really with one command. And it, in this case, really eliminates a lot of the visuals of what you would see had you not planned it this way. Frame TVs have become very, very popular. So this idea of if you can't conceal it, if you don't put it on a lift, if it's not in the ceiling, how do you hide this? And frame TVs have become very popular in the last 5 years. And essentially it's taking that black box on the wall and instead utilizing digital artwork to showcase the client's personality, their current vibe in their house, something that they want to personalize, even their own artwork, to make sure that that's more of a personal space. So instead of walking into a room and there's a big black box above the fireplace, typically, or in some other part of the room, it's actually a piece of artwork. And there's something very different about these televisions. They're not stock televisions that are coming out because as you look at art isn't shiny, right? And so screens tend to have reflective capabilities to them. These screens do not. They are more matte. So they are meant to look like artwork, real artwork. And so for that reason, there's not as much reflection on the material the television is made for. The other really important note is that they are typically very, very, very close to the wall. So in a traditional television mount, you may see, if it's a fixed mount or a tilting mount, you might see a mount, if you were to walk around the side of this, about this big. These are completely flush to the wall. And essentially the electronics that are helping drive some of the picture here are hidden, either they're remote in a different part of the house, which was kind of relocating those devices, just like we talked about previously, or they might be localized here somewhere that's hidden away. The other thing with art TVs is that you can pick any sort of frame. There are multiple companies that, depending upon your TV model for your client and also the size of the television, you can have antique frames, you can have really modern, sleek frames. There is a frame that will go around this television and essentially help support the goal of it being artwork on your wall. And it really has, there really is a wide group of choices for designers and for clients based on what they're trying to accomplish. It's really a very fantastic way to take the TV problem off of the wall, per se. So this is a big, scary kind of picture in some ways because it just looks like a lot. But not every data room, or in some cases, most commonly, just a rack. They're actually kind of, I think they're cool looking racks. We typically put them in closets or in basements. And essentially they have things like the network components we talked about earlier, a router, a network switch that might power cameras through different parts of the house externally. We also incorporate the amplifiers for the audio that's throughout the house, and then lighting controls. So you can have centralized lighting controls, or you can have a decentralized lighting control that is also kind of connected through a hub. So in this case, this is a lot of wires and a lot of infrastructure. This is probably a really, really big house. And you can see that this is all wall mounted because it's so large. This could just be a 27U rack instead of a wall, right? Depending upon the space, it doesn't have to be on a wall. But this is giving you the impression that all of those things that used to be localized or in sight, this is how we hide it all. The technology is still there. It's certainly a lot smaller than what it was in 20 years ago, but it's organized, it's easy to service if it needs to be serviced, and it's all in one place. So we tend to wire everything back, home run wire, back to an area, typically if there are basements in the part of the country, or if there is a closet that has been dedicated, that's the type of space where we essentially centralize all the communication equipment. So we talked a little bit about this at the top. There's a lot of there's technology in everything now. So everything from smart thermostats and HVAC controls. There are air quality management systems that automatically will tee off your HVAC system to distribute air and circulate air because maybe there's some VOCs in your house or other things that aren't healthy. So HVAC controls have really come a long way in the last couple of years. Whole home music, as we talked about earlier, and the whole streaming phenomenon has made people really want to be able to have whatever music or podcast or news locally where they are, and they want to be able to control different things in different zones. So part of that design planning process and hiding the technology really is around what zones are most important for the client and which should be essentially controlled independently and all together. So very similar to lighting controls and thinking about lighting design and understanding, which loads should work together to create the experience that you're trying to envision. Similar to that, surveillance, which is, essentially cameras inside and out. Access control, which was smart locks. So being able to incorporate that is really important. We talked a bit about lighting control, window treatment. So automated shades, automated drapes. I would say this is both inside and outside. So we have parts of the country, for example, where automated outdoor shades, either to protect from bugs or because they want to take a 3-season porch and provide more comfort during certain seasons, or they have an area of their backyard that particularly they want to sit at, but there's so much sun beating down on them, or their outdoor furniture, they want to protect it. Automated outdoor shades that live outside year-round have been very, very popular, and also is something that we can integrate and automate as part of the client's experience. And then last but not least, actually TV media room, we spoke about that. So the ability to have screens in different places through really great planning, we can put screens pretty much anywhere because we can hide them in ceilings, we can have them come up on lift cabinets, we can create a variety of other different designs that help people get that video content when they want it and then not see it when they don't want it. And tying it all together really is whole home control and making sure that when the individual who's living in this home wants to essentially manage all of these systems, that's a really simple and elegant experience for them. And the best way really to do that is through design planning with an integration company like ours, the designer, architect, client, builder, getting those people together and really making sure everyone understands how the person's going to live in this space, so that when it comes to making sure that when they're entertaining, the music comes on, the right lighting comes on. If they're away, they're able to see surveillance in their house through their cameras that are remotely available. They're able to unlock and lock their door, ensure that it's closed at night. Variety of different benefits of this, but really kind of tying it all together in one home control system so that people are able to use it. Another thing I'll mention here that I think is really important is making sure that everybody who lives in this space and is expected to enjoy this space is able to control these items. So oftentimes what you see when things aren't planned is you might have one person in the house with maybe a smartphone that is able to control everything, control the music, the drapes, all of that. At the end of the day, that's a big bottleneck to enjoyment, right? What if that person isn't around? What if they're working? So part of that design process thinking around integrating these items and automating them is making sure that everybody in the house has the capability to be able to control things. Now, of course, there's children, things like that. You might not want them working your shades, and there's ways to compartmentalize things. So it's really the adults that are able to control things. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that anyone really could walk into this space. Like, let's say it was an Airbnb, they walked into this space and there's a touch panel on the wall, maybe something else, some keypads on the wall as well that have scenes customized written on them. Good morning, good night, relax, music, whatever the case may be. Something very simple so that anyone could walk into that house brand new and be able to control it and enjoy it at the touch of a button. And that's really what our goal is with automation and integration for these systems. Talk a little bit about seamless control. Voice control has become very popular. There's also wall control. So if you look at touch screens, like in this photo, they come in typically white and black. Those provide the capability to adjust lighting, also execute things like scenes. Like I said earlier, making sure that when you're ready to entertain, that all of these things can happen quite seamlessly so that you can focus on enjoying the party and making sure that the music keeps going and the lights at the right level and everything like that. A little bit about hiding things in plain sight. So this is probably one of the first steps if you're not in a place where you're concealing things or completely eliminating things. Being able to hide things in plain sight is great. So a good example here would be if we went with, instead of this black box on the wall, maybe it is a frame TV that has artwork on it, that has a matte look to it. So it actually looks like artwork that you see on the other side of the wall. And that's a great way to be able to hide things in plain sight. And it's also not prohibitive cost-wise. So you might start with your design planning around technology and thinking about, okay, what are the things that I can start with in terms of just hiding them? And having a conversation with an integration company ahead of time about the equipment that's going to be there, leveraging things like cabinets, other areas where we can tuck things away nice and neat if we need to, is great. It does require planning. And in some cases, some of the equipment has, you don't want it to overheat. So there might be some ventilation requirements or fans, not always, but sometimes. But through having that conversation early, typically these things can be planned so that things are hidden in plain sight. And that was most of the content here today. I just want to mention CEDIA is a great organization, nonprofit. Interior designers can join, and architects and other trade professionals. We also have a large conference in September every year where you can meet with other integrators, but also see all the cool technology that we see and experience the keypads, the moving artwork, the moving automated shades, all the latest and greatest on what's possible and what's happening from a design perspective in technology. And there's quite a bit. It's actually kind of cool. Every year we see some really beautiful pieces put together to help make technology look really great. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out cedia.org or feel free to reach out to me. Be happy to share my experience with the organization with you. So that is the end of our presentation here today. I want to thank you for attending. And if you have any questions or want to, essentially get some support on a project or a question you have or a unique need, do feel free to reach out. As I mentioned earlier, most people in our industry really are positioned to help educate on what's possible, and then work really closely with the design community to help you in a very as simple way as possible, not complicate the project, and get you to the finish line in a way that makes you look good, makes us look good, and wows the client. So definitely feel free to reach out. And we have 4 different additional courses that we're able to teach as part of this. If you'd like to learn more about that, definitely reach out to Monica, and she'd be happy to share the catalog with you, which include things like Introduction to Integrated Lighting Design, outdoor technology, and there's a few others that are really good. So thank you so much. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. And I'm happy that you were able to attend today.